in that they revolved it around themselves, never created another star. And then, I mean, Sheik had an interesting act, and obviously it worked for years because he became a superstar. But after a certain amount of time, his act stopped working. You know, I mean, every match, Sheik's matches were similar. I mean, he would go in there, and then they were usually short matches. He would take his foreign object, the pencil, slice up the guy's head, the guy would get the pencil, come back, the Sheik would bleed. High action, you know, really intense. People hated the Sheik, and then they would do some sort of a gimmicked finish. And, you know, sometimes 5 minutes, you know, and sometimes even less, sometimes a little more. And people just burned out on the same thing over and over again, week in and week out. And, you know, he got old, and the territory died, you know. That's not that unusual. That's the history of a lot of territories. Detroit may be more famous because, you know, it just hit that wall where all of a sudden people just weren't going to pay to see the Sheik anymore, but the Sheik only knew how to promote the Sheik. Well, he trained both of them, although, you know, like Rob Van Dam's wrestling style is absolutely nothing like the Sheik. I mean, the Sheik probably taught him, you know, certain type of respect for the business. I think the Sheik was actually a bad influence on Sabu because Sabu adopted the Sheik's 1970s mentality about, you know, not doing jobs and how a superstar acts, that by the 90s, it was just a different business. And you know, he would go to the Sheik because he had so much respect for him for advice on what to do. And, you know, the Sheik would give him the advice that the Sheik would have done in the 70s that did work well for the Sheik, but it was the wrong advice for Sabu. But, you know, he was his nephew and helped break him in. And, you know, I mean, Sabu was a phenomenon for a short period of time too, but he was never, you know, like the Sheik. You know, the Sheik had, you know, I mean, he was big from the 50s through the, you know, all through the 70s, and even in the 80s in certain places, and in Japan. I mean, the Sheik and Onita in the 90s when the Sheik was like, you know, 60 years old, or you know, well, you know, almost 70 years old. You know, they still, he meant business because it was the Sheik coming to those shows, those house shows. I mean, it was like amazing to me to go into those, because I went to some of those shows to see the Sheik drop. I mean, he drew people when he was like, could not move at all, you know, both hips done and everything like that. And I mean, just, you know, just an old man, but those people, and it was just the right thing at the right time. He was, you know, he was nostalgia, but they still, I guess, got off on the danger. I mean, I remember going through, he was sort of scary, you know, because he'd have the fireballs around, he'd be chasing you around. And, you know, he had an aura, no doubt about it.